and welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we're taking a look at the new stamp set, Peas on Earth. This stamp set is similar to an older stamp set, Be Happy, but these little peas have some holiday attire and they're ready to sing some Christmas carols. They have some cute little faces and some singing words, so let's get started making a couple cards. So I've gone ahead and I've stamped out and colored my little peas here, and I'm going to add their faces. There's quite a few little faces in this set that you can add, and some of them are singing because as you can see, these little peas are singing some Christmas carols. So I'm going to use the two little faces that show that they're singing to stamp my little peas with the caroling books. And then I'll use a different face for that other little guy there who's not holding a book. And the first card I'm making today is a shutter card. I'm going to be using this paper from the Snow Day Remix collection that has music notes on one side and that dark teal on the back side. So the music notes are going to be on the outside of my shutter card, and then you'll open it up to that dark teal with the dots that looks like snow for the inside. I'm also going to be using this same paper to cut my shutters. So you can see here I'm going to cut two of those, and I'm cutting them out of the music note side of the paper, so those will be on the inside. And then I'm also going to use the add-on panel you see there, and I'm going to cut a piece of that pink paper with the little white dots from the Let It Shine paper collection. So these are the main pieces of my shutter card here, and you can see how all of those nice pattern papers are going to work together. And then for the inside of my shutter card where my sentiment's going to go, I'm going to use a piece of Guava Cardstock. But first I'm going to go ahead and fold this where all those score lines are. So I'm going to fold the two pieces on the outside in, and then I'm going to fold down those tabs on the top and the bottom where my center panel is going to go. And then I'm using this circle that comes with the shutter card die to cut that Guava Cardstock, and this is where my sentiment is going to go in the center. I'm going to go ahead and put the shutters on, so I'm just going to fold those as well where that score line that the die creates is there, and I'm just going to enforce that with my bone folder. And I'm making sure that my music notes are right side up, so that's why I was kind of looking at them and flipping them, because I made sure to cut them to where the music notes will be right side up on both sides. So now I know which side each of these is going to go on, and I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive tape to that tab. And I'm going to tear off this little piece that kind of overhung a little bit. You want to make sure that you don't overlap it so nothing gets stuck where you don't want it to stick. And then I can take that liner tape off, and there's some little guide marks that the die creates, which is kind of hard to see on camera, but you line up that shutter with those, and then you can close the front of the card and just pick up that adhesive, and it puts that shutter in the perfect placement. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to line it up with the little guide marks that the die creates. I'm going to line it up with the edge of that fold, and then I can fold the front over and pick up that adhesive. So now I have my shutters in the center right where they need to be. I do want to work on this sentiment and put that in there before I assemble the rest of the shutter card. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this double-sided adhesive tape on the other two tabs where that center panel goes, because I'm going to go ahead and adhere the center panel on one side so I have it as a guide on where to put that circle where I'm going to put my sentiment. So before I adhere this panel on there just at the top to use as a guide, I want to finish up this front panel. So I'm using some pixie dust glitter cardstock, and I've cut it with that add-on die for that panel so it has the nice stitching detail along the bottom and the sides. And then I'm just laying my little peas on here where I want them, and I'm going to use a stitched hillside to cut the top of this piece of glitter cardstock. So I'm laying them here so that I know where their placement is and I don't cut this little hill too high or too low. So now that I've got that cut to the height that I want it, I'm going to go ahead and just glue that right to the bottom of this panel. And then I'm going to add all those little images in. So there's this cute little lamppost that comes in this set, and then all my little caroling peas. So I'm just going to place them so I make sure I have their placement right, and then I will glue them down. And then I actually changed my mind on the little speech bubble with the music note. I decided to stamp it in some peacock ink so it kind of matched the colors a little better and wasn't so stark in the black. And then I'm using the little stamp that says, "Oh, Christmas pea," like the peas are singing, and I'm stamping that above the opening in some black ink. And then I'm also going to add in some of the tiny little music notes. So this will just decorate the top and the bottom and balance out this panel. So now I can do that sentiment on that guava cardstock circle that I cut earlier. And I'm using the sentiment in this set that says Happy Holidays. And I'm going to white emboss that on this pink cardstock. So I've just used my powder tool on the cardstock. I'm going to ink it up with some clear embossing ink and stamp that down. And then I'll add my white embossing powder. And now I can just heat that up with my heat tool till it's all melted and I get this nice bright white sentiment on that guava cardstock. So now I can add it to the inside of the card, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the liner tape off that top panel, or that top flap I should say. I'm going to line up my panel just at the top, so I'm not going to adhere it down yet because I want my shutters to be out of the way. So you can see how they're not folded down just yet. They're going to go behind that panel. So I'm just going to lay this here, and that will show me exactly where I need to place this circle that has this sentiment. So you can see how doing this method of putting the sentiment in will give you another color inside your card. Because if the sentiment was stamped in the circle right now, it'd be that same teal that you see everywhere. But this allows you to bring something else in and make that stand out from the background. So you can see I'm just dropping it in the hole right there. It fits perfectly because it's the same size circle. Making sure it's nice and stuck down. And then what I can do is I can complete the inside of the card. So I'm going to fold these shutters in. I'm making sure that the top and the bottom alternate as to which one's on top and which one's underneath. And you can see you get that nice look there with that pink in the middle. And then I can pull off the liner tape from the bottom tab and just stick the rest of that panel down. And then the little pea that's not singing, I have not forgotten about him. He's actually going to be peeping out from the opening. He's hanging upside down, peeping out from the opening. So I'm laying my card nice and flat, and I'm just going to fit him up there to where he's not covering up the sentiment, but he's just peeping out, and I just think that is adorable. So now to work on the front of the card, I'm using the little wreath. I've cut it from Cilantro cardstock and Noble Fir. I've also cut that circle from some Let It Shine paper. I've cut a treble clef from some black paper. And that's going to be my decoration in the center of my circle. And then I've also cut the band from some Let It Shine paper too that matches the inside. So I'm just going to add my wreath to the circle and it fits perfectly. And I'm putting the dark colored, the Noble Fir on the back, and then I'm going to layer the cilantro on top. I'm going to shift it around so that you see that Noble Fir behind the cilantro, and this just kind of gives the wreath a little more depth. And then I can add my treble clef on top to go with the music and the singing carols theme of this card. Now for the belly band, you're going to fold it on that score line in the center. And then you're going to use the score line that's close to the end as a guide for your adhesive. So I just folded it down the middle in both of these, and then I'm going to add adhesive to the other side on the outside of that score line. So I'm just going to pull off that liner tape, and I can adhere these two pieces together using that score line as a guide as to where the edge of the other piece goes. And then this is going to get covered up with the music note circle that I just made. So now I can pull off the other piece, and then what I'll do is I'll fold it in like it's going to be wrapped around, and then it will be perfectly lined up and nice and flat. So now I can just slide that over the top, and it will wrap around the shutter card and keep it closed. And then I'll cover up the seam between those two pieces with my circle decoration that I made. So I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid glue to the middle. And I'm going to add that circle with the wreath and the treble clef right on top. So for this card, I didn't use the decorative panels for the front because I liked seeing that music note paper. So we have this music note theme with the treble clef on the front, and then you open it up and you see those little peas singing carols with that little guy peeping out the top, which is just so much fun. So for my second card, I'm going to create a winter scene using these cute little peas. And I'm going to start out by using some pixie dust cardstock and the stitched hillside backdrop in landscape. So this is going to set my snowy hills for my little scene to be set on. I also have a piece of bristol cardstock cut to 5.5 by 4.25 to fit right behind this die cut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up, and I'm actually going to shift my hillside down a little bit. And then I'm just going to draw a light pencil line, and this way while I'm doing my ink blending, I know where that hill is going to hit. So I have some distress oxides here, I have some tumbled glass and some broken china, and I'm going to create a blue sky. So I'm starting out with the tumbled glass just in the center, and I'm going to do the darker color on the outside. So I'm just putting down a layer of that tumbled glass all over. And then I can come in with the broken china and do the edges and the corners. So after I've got that broken china on there, I'll go back with the tumbled glass and then blend out the line between the two colors. And I'll just go back and forth until I get it blended the way I want. And you can see that I had a little corner there that I needed to cover up with ink. But that's a good thing to do, is to check the die cut that's going to overlay it. So now I have this pretty blue sky with my sparkly snow below. And then I'm going to put a layer of liquid stardust. So I put this in a little spray bottle with some water and basically make what I call stardust spray. And it's a little less concentrated, and you can spray it and have this subtle shimmer over the whole thing. So I just held it up pretty high, hit that with the stardust spray. I'm going to dry it with my heat tool. I'm going to add a little bit more. It's good to dry it and see what it looks like, then add more if you need to. And it also adds a little bit of texture to the oxide as that ink reacts with the water. And you can see that subtle shimmer that it gives. So it's shimmery like the snow, but not overpowering. So you kind of have two levels of shimmer on this card. I've added some adhesive to the back of it, and I'm going to put it onto a card base. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down my glittery backdrop die cut too. So I'm making sure not to glue down the top of the hills so that I can tuck some of my images behind it so they look like they're in the snow. I'm just going to make sure that's lined up with the edges and make sure it's nice and stuck down. And then I'm going to be using the Be Happy set along with the Peas on Earth. So those little peas fit into that little pea pod, which I've already colored here. And I'm going to have some peas sliding down the hill in the pea pod and then some carolers in the back. I'm also going to use some buildings and the trees from Winter Village to set my little scene. But first, I need to cut a slit in this pea pod so that my little peas fit down inside. So there's a die in this die set with the Be Happy set that will cut the edge of the pea pod so that the little peas can sit down inside. So I'm just going to line that die up with the line of the image, and I'll hold it in place with a little piece of washi tape. And I'll run that through my die cut machine so that I've got a little slot for the peas to sit down inside of. So I stamped one with that little mustache, which I think is so cute, and then the other one with that little smirky smile. And I'm going to just tuck those right inside, and they're going to be sliding down the hill in the pea pod, which I just think is adorable. And then there's also a little stamp in this stamp set that will stamp little cheeks for these guys. So I decided to use some Worn Lipstick Distress Oxide because it's got a pigment, and stamp some rosy cheeks on that guy in the front of my pea pod. I've laid my other images onto my background, and I'm putting my sentiment in my Misty, and this is just so I can line up the sentiment and place it correctly. So my images are not glued down yet, but I'm using the sentiment that says "Let there be peace on earth," which is just adorable. And then now I can add all my little images permanently. So I'm just going to use some liquid glue along with some thin foam adhesive squares. And I'm using the thin ones so that what I'm giving dimension to in the background doesn't pop up quite too much, because that hill that's in the foreground of the die cut is not popped up. So I feel like it'd be a little weird if these popped up too much. So I'm just adding the thin foam adhesive just for some very, very slight dimension. And then I've also got my little houses from the Winter Village set. They're already colored and cut out there. And again, I'll just pop up the one that's in the foreground with some foam adhesive. I'm going to do the same with these little trees. These are also from the Winter Village stamp set. And then I've got a little star to add to one of the trees to make it a little more holiday. And then I'm going to use that snow to add to my other house here that doesn't have the snow so that they match. I've also got the little smoke coming from the chimneys. And then of course my pea pod. So I'm going to add some glue to that, and then I'm going to be tucking that behind the hill in the front so it looks like it's down in the snow. This would make a fun slider card as well, which Megan did, which I'm going to show you at the end of the video. I'm also going to stamp out some of those little music notes like I did on the first card right around those little carolers with their lamppost. And then I wanted to add a little bit to this card, so I decided on some twine to kind of fill in that sort of very white open space in the bottom left corner, and I just like the texture and the color that this added to the card. So I've got some peppermint lawn trimmings twine here. I'm just going to wrap it around the card twice, and I'm going to tie a bow on that left side. So once I have my bow tied nice and tight, I can just get it looking the way I want it. And then I'll just trim off the ends of these tails to the right length. And then just to add a few more details, I have some stardust stickles that I'm adding to the snow on the rooftops of the houses. I also added some yellow stickles to the star on top of the tree, as well as the street lamp. And then I felt like that top left corner was a little bit bare and needed something, so there is a moon in the Winter Village stamp set, so I stamped it, colored it, and cut it out with the matching die, and I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow stickles to that as well. And I really think that helped fill it and balance the card a lot better. So here is that finished card, and I just think it's super cute. I love that sparkly snow and those cute little peas in the pea pod. Now let's take a look at some examples from the design team. Letitia created this super cute card with some clouds using the stencil, and I love her use of the mountain borders at the bottom with those cute little peas. Elise made this super sweet card. I love all those little peas gathered in the pea pod and the way she incorporated the sentiment from Be Happy. And I also love those little snowflakes that she cut from the metallic cardstock. Tammy made a super cute card and some matching tags with cute little scenes with all those little peas caroling and sledding in the snow, and I just think it is so adorable. I love Audrey's card and that nighttime sky with the snow that she created. I also love that she created a glow behind those street lamps to set her scene. It's just so cute. Lynette made this amazing Christmas tree of singing peas. It's like the singing Christmas tree, and I just think it is so awesome. Look at all those peas stacked together. It's amazing. Yainea created this super sweet card, and I love her color scheme that she created. I love that the peas are singing, sitting in the pod, and I just think it is so cute. Grace was super clever and changed her peas into gumballs, and I love these Christmas colored gumballs in the gumball machine, and how her pull tab makes those little gumballs jump up on the sides. It's just so super cute. Kara created this fun card, and I love her no-line coloring that she did, and I also love the giant globe that she created using inks for her little piece to stand on. Maureen made this super sweet card. I love her color scheme that she used with the pink colors. It's a little non-traditional, and I love how she used the die cuts to emphasize her sentiment. Megan made this really fun slider card. I love her little squirrel that's sliding with the peas. I just think that's so much fun. And check out that little snowman that's colored like his head is made out of a pea. How clever is that? Here's another card by Letitia, and I love her snowflakes in the sky, and those rainbow mountains are just so cool with those cute little peas at the bottom. Elena created a slimline card with this really awesome nighttime sky and all those little peas having so much fun in the snow. I love the ones in the pod with the lights. I just think that's so much fun. And then Elise created this really fun galaxy card using the planets and the earth from Out of This World to circle her peas around to go with her sentiment. It's just so cute. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.